Success is built in the dark, in the hours when nobody's watching, doing work that wouldn't make a good photograph or an inspiring quote on social media. I'm talking about the kind of work that makes your back ache, that tests your patience, that makes you question whether you're even making progress at all. But here's what I've learned after all these years. That's exactly where the magic happens. Not in the spotlight, not when the cameras are rolling, but in those quiet, unglamorous moments when you're grinding it out and wondering if anyone will ever notice. Let me tell you about a time in my life when I was working 3 jobs. I had my day job, I had my evening commitment, and then I'd come home and work on my personal development until midnight or 1 in the morning. My alarm would go off at 5:30 and I'd do it all over again. Now, was that pretty? Absolutely not. Did my friends think I was crazy? You better believe it. But here's the thing. I wasn't building a highlight reel for other people to admire. I was building a foundation that nobody could see yet. I was stacking invisible bricks, one on top of the other, and most days it felt like nothing was happening. The breakthrough wasn't happening. The recognition wasn't coming. The bank account wasn't growing fast enough. But the work was getting done. See, we live in a world that shows us the finished product and hides the factory. We see the author on the book tour, but we don't see the 2 years of rejected manuscripts and 3 in the morning writing sessions. We see the entrepreneur giving the keynote speech, but we don't see the 7 failed businesses that came before. We see the athlete holding the trophy, but we don't see the 1,000 early mornings in the gym when their body was screaming to stay in bed. Society has sold us this idea that success should look a certain way, that it should feel inspiring every single day, that if you're doing it right, you'll be motivated and energized and passionate all the time. And that's a lie. That's a dangerous, destructive lie that keeps more people from their dreams than any external obstacle ever could. The truth is, most of the work that changes your life is boring. It's repetitive. It's the same thing over and over until you want to scream. When I was learning to speak in public, I practiced the same speech hundreds of times. Not in front of audiences at first, just in my living room, in my car, anywhere I could rehearse. Was that exciting? No. Did I feel like a champion doing it? Not even close. I felt ridiculous, but you know what? Each repetition was making me better in ways I couldn't measure yet. Each time through that material, something was changing in my brain, in my confidence, in my delivery. The work was working even when it didn't feel like it. Here's what most people don't understand. The grind is supposed to be hard. It's supposed to test you. If it was easy, if it was always fun, if it felt good every step of the way, then everyone would do it and it wouldn't be valuable. The difficulty is the filter. The unglamorous nature of the work is what separates the people who really want it from the people who just like the idea of wanting it. And let me tell you, there's a massive difference between those two groups. The people who like the idea of success, they show up when it's convenient, when they feel motivated, when the conditions are right. The people who really want it, they show up anyway. They show up tired, they show up discouraged, they show up when every fiber of their being is telling them to quit, and they do the work anyway. I remember talking to a young man once who wanted to build a business. He had this grand vision, talked about it beautifully, could paint you a picture of where he wanted to be in 5 years that would bring tears to your eyes. But when I asked him about his daily routine, about what he was doing today to build that future, he got quiet. He was waiting for the right time, waiting for more money, waiting to feel ready, waiting for some magical moment when everything would align perfectly. And I had to tell him something that hurt to hear. The right time is now, and it's going to look nothing like you think it should. It's going to be messy and confusing and frustrating, and you're going to do it anyway or you're not going to do it at all. You see, success isn't built in the moments of inspiration. Inspiration is wonderful, don't get me wrong. Those moments when you feel on fire, when you can see the vision clearly, when you believe anything is possible, those are beautiful moments. But they're rare. They're like holidays, special occasions that come and go. You can't build a life on holidays. You build a life on Tuesdays. You build it on regular, ordinary days when nothing special is happening and you still have to show up and put in the work. That's where champions are made, in the monotony, in the routine, in doing what needs to be done whether you feel like it or not. And here's something else I've noticed over the years. The people who make it, the people who actually achieve what they set out to achieve, they stop waiting for the work to look a certain way. They stop needing it to be pretty. They develop this ability to find satisfaction in the process itself, not because the process is inherently satisfying, but because they know where it leads. It's like planting a garden. When you're out there in the dirt, pulling weeds, watering, dealing with pests, your hands dirty and your back sore, that's not the glamorous part. But you do it because you know what's coming. You do it because you can see in your mind what that garden will look like in a few months, what it will provide, how it will feed you and your family. The same principle applies to everything worth having in life. When I was building my library, reading book after book on philosophy, on business, on success principles, there were nights when I'd rather been watching television. There were nights when my eyes were heavy and the words on the page weren't sinking in the way I wanted them to. But I kept reading because I understood something crucial. I was building an internal library, a resource I could draw from for the rest of my life. Every page was an investment. Every concept I wrestled with was making me sharper, wiser, more capable. The work wasn't always enjoyable, but it was always valuable. Let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about this. What are you doing when nobody's looking? What are you committed to when there's no applause, no recognition, no immediate reward? Because that's where your future is being built. Not in the public moments, not when you're on stage or getting praised, but in the private moments when it's just you and the work and the decision to keep going or to quit. Those moments define everything. They're the moments that separate the life you're living from the life you could be living. I've seen people with tremendous talent waste it all because they couldn't embrace the grind. They wanted the results without the process. They wanted the harvest without the planting season. And it doesn't work that way. It has never worked that way, and it never will. The universe has laws, and one of those laws is that you reap what you sow. But here's the part people forget. There's always a season between the sowing and the reaping. There's always a period where you're working and working and working and nothing visible is happening. The seed is underground, it's doing its work, but you can't see it yet. And this is where most people quit. They quit right before the breakthrough. They quit in the darkness, not knowing that dawn was just around the corner. So when I talk about the grind not being pretty, I'm talking about all of it. I'm talking about the early mornings and the late nights. I'm talking about doing the same thing over and over until you get it, right? I'm talking about the rejection, the failure, the moments of doubt that creep in when you're tired and discouraged. I'm talking about showing up on the days when you have nothing left to give and giving anyway. That's the grind. It's not photogenic. It won't trend on social media. Your friends might not understand it. But it works. It has always worked. And it always will work. Because consistent effort over time cannot be stopped. It's a force of nature. Now let me tell you about the moment that gets most people. It's not the starting line. Starting is actually easy because you're excited, you're motivated, you've got this fresh energy and everything feels possible. No, the moment that gets people is about 3 months in, sometimes 6 months, sometimes a year. When the newness is worn off and you realize you're still doing the same things over and over and the results aren't matching your effort yet, that's the moment. That's when people start dropping like flies. I've watched it happen hundreds of times. Someone starts a business with all the enthusiasm in the world. They're telling everyone about it, they're working late, they're reading books, they're making plans. Then month 4 rolls around and suddenly they're quiet. You ask them about the business and they change the subject. By month 6, they've moved on to something else, something new that's captured their attention, something that feels exciting again. And here's what they don't realize. They quit right in the middle of the transformation. They quit right when the real work was starting to compound. See, there's this phase that nobody warns you about. I call it the ugly middle. It's that stretch of time where you're no longer a beginner, so you can't use that as an excuse, but you're not yet successful, so you can't use that as motivation. You're stuck in this in-between place, where you know too much to quit, but you haven't achieved enough to feel validated. And it's uncomfortable. It's supposed to be uncomfortable. That discomfort is doing something inside of you, it's building something, but most people can't see it, so they bail. I remember when I first started speaking after I'd gotten past the initial stage of just learning to put sentences together in front of people. I'd done maybe 50 speeches. And I thought I was pretty good. But then I'd watch myself on video or I'd get feedback and I'd realize how much further I had to go. And for a while there I was in this frustrating place where I knew what good speaking looked like. I could recognize it in others, but I couldn't consistently do it myself. My expectations had outgrown my abilities, and that gap was painful. A lot of people quit right there. They can't stand being mediocre at something they care about. But here's what I learned. You have to be willing to be mediocre on the way to being great. There's no shortcut around that phase. The problem is we're comparing our chapter 3 to someone else's chapter 20. We see the polished performance, the smooth delivery, the effortless success, and we think that's what it should look like for us right now. But we're not seeing their chapter 3. We're not seeing when they were stumbling, when they were awkward, when they were working twice as hard for half the results. Everybody, and I mean everybody, goes through the ugly middle. The difference is some people keep going and some people don't. Here's the truth about feelings. They're the worst possible guide for important decisions. Feelings change with the weather, with your energy level, with what you ate for breakfast. If you only work when you feel like it, you'll have a very inconsistent life. I learned early on that I couldn't trust my feelings to tell me what to do. Some mornings I'd wake up and feel like conquering the world. Other mornings I'd wake up and feel like staying in bed. But the work didn't care how I felt. The work was there either way. And the person I was becoming was being shaped by whether I did the work, regardless of my feelings, or whether I let my feelings dictate my actions. Let me tell you what happens when you make feelings your master. You become weak. Not physically weak, but weak in character, weak in discipline, weak in your ability to follow through. Because feelings are temporary. Motivation comes and goes like waves on a beach. Some days the waves are high and powerful, some days they're barely ripples. But the beach is always there, the work is always there. And if you're only showing up on the high wave days, you're going to have a very disappointing life. I've met people who are incredibly talented, naturally gifted in ways that most of us aren't. And I've watched some of those people accomplish nothing of significance because they never learned to work when they didn't feel like it. They never developed that muscle, that ability to override their immediate desires for their long-term goals. And then I've met people with average talent, nothing special, nothing that would make you think they'd stand out. But they had something more valuable than talent. They had the ability to be consistent. They had the ability to show up day after day, whether they felt like it or not, and do what needed to be done. Consistency beats talent every single time in the long run. Talent might give you a head start, but consistency is what carries you across the finish line. And here's something interesting I've noticed. The people who rely on talent, they often quit faster when things get hard because they're not used to struggling. Things have come easy for them, so when they hit that first real obstacle, that first moment where talent isn't enough, they don't have the tools to push through. But the people who never had natural talent, who had to work for every inch of progress, they've built those tools. They've built resilience. They've built the ability to grind it out when it gets ugly. There's a season for everything. You plant in the spring, you tend the crops through the summer, you harvest in the fall, and you rest in the winter. But you can't harvest in the spring. You can't plant in the fall and expect crops. There's an order to things, a sequence that can't be rushed or skipped. And right now, wherever you are in your life, you're in a season. Maybe you're in planting season. Maybe you're in the long summer of tending and waiting. Maybe you're getting close to harvest. But whatever season you're in, you have to do the work of that season. You can't skip to the next one. You can't demand results in planting season. Most people quit because they're trying to harvest when they should be planting. They're looking for the payoff after 2 weeks of effort. They're expecting transformation after 1 month of showing up. And when they don't get it, when the results don't match their timeline, they get discouraged and they quit. But the timeline isn't up to you. The seasons have their own rhythm. Your job is to do the work of the current season and trust the process. I spent years planting seeds that didn't seem to be growing. Years of reading and studying and practicing and getting better in ways that nobody could see yet. And there were plenty of moments when I wondered if it was worth it. Plenty of moments when I looked around at other people who seemed to be getting results faster and I felt frustrated. But I kept planting. I kept doing the work. And eventually the harvest came. Not on my timeline, but on the right timeline. And when it came, it was bigger than I could have imagined because I'd planted so many seeds over those years. Here's what I want you to understand. The grind is where you prove to yourself what you're made of, not to other people, to yourself. Every time you show up when you don't want to, you're making a deposit in your self-respect account. Every time you do the work when it's hard and boring and nobody's watching, you're building evidence that you're the kind of person who keeps their promises to themselves. And that evidence accumulates. It builds your confidence in a way that no external achievement ever could. See, when you achieve something because circumstances were perfect and you felt motivated and everything aligned, that's nice. But it doesn't build deep confidence because part of you knows it might have been luck or timing. But when you achieve something because you ground it out, because you pushed through when everything in you wanted to quit, because you stayed consistent when it was ugly and hard, that builds unshakable confidence. That builds the kind of certainty in yourself that nobody can take away from you. The grind teaches you who you really are. It strips away all the pretense, all the excuses, all the stories you tell yourself about why you can't. In the grind, there's just you and the work and the choice you make every single day. And that choice is revealing something about your character. It's showing you whether you're the kind of person who follows through or the kind who gives up when things get difficult. And the beautiful thing is, if you don't like what the grind is revealing about you, you can change it right now, today. You can decide to be different. Let me get practical with you for a moment. What does the grind actually look like in real life? Because I think a lot of people have this abstract idea of hard work, but they don't know what it means on a Tuesday morning when the alarm goes off. So let me paint you a real picture. The grind looks like making 50 phone calls when you only want to make 5. It looks like practicing your presentation one more time, even though you've already done it 20 times and you're sick of hearing your own voice. It looks like getting up at 5 in the morning to work on your business before your day job starts, even though you didn't get to bed until midnight. It looks like reading when you're tired, exercising when you're sore, being disciplined with your money when you'd rather spend it, having the difficult conversation when you'd rather avoid it. It's not dramatic. It's not the stuff of movies. Most days, the grind looks like the most ordinary thing in the world. And that's exactly why it works. Because it's sustainable. You can't live in dramatic moments every day. You can't sustain peak intensity forever, but you can sustain showing up and doing the basics consistently. That's the secret. The basics done consistently over time create extraordinary results. When I was working on my communication skills, the grind looked like this. Every single day, I would read for at least an hour. Not fun reading, not escape reading, but material that challenged me, that made me think, that expanded my understanding. Then I would practice writing for 30 minutes, trying to articulate ideas clearly. Then I would practice speaking, either recording myself or rehearsing in front of a mirror. Every single day. Rain or shine, tired or energetic, motivated or discouraged, the routine didn't change based on my mood. And here's what most people miss. I didn't see improvement every day. Some days I felt like I was getting worse. Some days the words wouldn't come. Some days I'd listen to my recordings and cringe at how awkward I sounded. But I kept the routine because I understood something fundamental. I was making deposits. Every day of practice was a deposit in an account that would pay dividends later. I couldn't see the account balance growing day by day, but I trusted it was growing. That's what the grind requires. Faith in the process. Not blind faith, but informed faith based on understanding how skill development works, how habits compound, how small actions accumulate into big results. You have to believe that the work you're doing today matters, even when you can't see the evidence yet. You have to trust that showing up consistently is changing you in ways that aren't visible on the surface. Let me tell you about measuring progress, because this is where a lot of people get stuck. They're looking for big dramatic changes. They want to see massive improvement week to week. And when they don't see it, they think they're not making progress. But that's not how growth works. Growth is mostly invisible until suddenly it's not. You're changing every day in tiny ways, and then one day you look back and realize you're not the same person you were 6 months ago. I learned to measure progress differently. Instead of asking, am I where I want to be yet, I started asking, did I do what I said I would do today? That's a question you can answer every single day. And if the answer is yes, you're making progress, period. It doesn't matter if you can see the results yet. It doesn't matter if other people notice. You kept your word to yourself, and that's progress. The grind is about mastering the fundamentals, not the advanced techniques, not the shortcuts, not the hacks, the fundamentals. In any field, there are basic skills that everything else builds on, and most people want to skip past those basics because they're boring. They want to get to the exciting stuff, the advanced strategies, the insider secrets. But here's the truth. The masters never stop working on the fundamentals. They understand that excellence is built on a foundation of basics executed at a high level. I watch people try to build businesses without mastering basic communication. I see them trying to get rich without understanding basic financial principles. I see them trying to get healthy without learning basic nutrition and exercise habits, and it doesn't work. You can't build a skyscraper on a weak foundation. You have to go back to the basics, even when it feels beneath you, even when you think you're past that stage. The basics are called basics because they're the base of everything else. Here's something else about the grind. There are no shortcuts that don't cost you something important. Every shortcut I've ever seen, every hack or trick or easy way around the hard work, it costs you. Maybe it costs you depth of knowledge. Maybe it costs you respect from people who matter. Maybe it costs you the character development that comes from doing things the hard way. But it always costs you something. The long way is the short way. That sounds backwards, but it's true. When you do things right, when you build properly, when you don't skip steps, you're creating something solid that lasts. When you take shortcuts, you end up having to go back and fix things later, and that takes more time in the long run. I've seen it happen over and over. The person who tries to get rich quick ends up broke. The person who tries to build a business on hype instead of value ends up failing. The person who wants the body without the workouts ends up right back where they started. The grind builds character in ways that success never could. When things are going well, when results are coming easy, you don't grow much. You enjoy it, sure, but you don't grow. Growth happens in the struggle. It happens when you're pushing against resistance, when you're doing something that's hard for you, when you're uncomfortable and you stay there anyway. That's where you become more than you were. Here's what nobody tells you about the grind. It changes who you are in ways you never expected. Most people think they're grinding to get something, to achieve a goal, to reach a destination. And sure, that's part of it. But the real transformation isn't in what you get. It's in who you become along the way. The grind doesn't just change your circumstances, it changes your identity. I wasn't always the person I am today. There was a time when I couldn't finish what I started. There was a time when I made promises to myself and broke them regularly. There was a time when I let my feelings run my life and wondered why nothing ever worked out. But somewhere in the process of grinding it out day after day, showing up when I didn't want to, doing the work when it wasn't convenient, something shifted inside me. I stopped being the kind of person who quits and became the kind of person who finishes. And that shift, that identity change, that was worth more than any external achievement. See, when you commit to the grind, when you decide you're going to see something through no matter how long it takes or how ugly it gets, you're making a statement about who you are. You're drawing a line in the sand, and every day that you honor that commitment, you're reinforcing that identity. You're collecting evidence that you're the kind of person who does what they say they're going to do. And that evidence accumulates into something powerful, self-trust. Self-trust is the foundation of everything else. You can't build confidence without it. You can't take risks without it. You can't pursue big dreams without it. And you can't develop self-trust by talking about it or thinking about it. You develop it by keeping promises to yourself, especially the small ones that nobody else knows about. The promise to get up early, the promise to work on your craft, the promise to stay disciplined with your habits. Those private promises, kept consistently, build the kind of self-trust that makes everything else possible. I'll tell you something I discovered about persistence. It's not just about stubbornness or refusing to quit. Real persistence is intelligent. It's about staying committed to your goal while being flexible about your methods. A lot of people confuse persistence with doing the same thing over and over, even when it's not working. That's not persistence, that's foolishness. True persistence means you're constantly learning, constantly adjusting, constantly getting better while maintaining your commitment to the outcome. When I was building my speaking career, I didn't just give the same speech the same way for years. I was constantly refining it, watching what landed with audiences and what didn't, studying other speakers, reading about communication, testing new approaches. The goal never changed, but the methods evolve constantly. That's the grind, working the way it's supposed to. You stay loyal to the destination, but flexible about the route. And here's something beautiful that happens when you embrace the grind. It starts to affect every area of your life. The discipline you develop in one area bleeds into others. When you learn to push through discomfort in your business, you find it easier to push through discomfort in your health. When you learn to be consistent with your habits, that consistency shows up in your relationships. The person you're becoming through the grind isn't just better at one thing. They're better at being human. I've watched people transform themselves completely through commitment to the process. I remember a man who came to one of my seminars, overweight, broke, struggling in his marriage, no direction in life. He grabbed onto one principle: do the basics every day, no matter what. He started with his health, just walking 30 minutes a day and eating a little better. Nothing dramatic, but he was consistent. And as his body started changing, his confidence grew. As his confidence grew, he started applying the same consistency to his finances, then to his work, then to his marriage. 5 years later, I wouldn't have recognized him. Different body, different bank account, different relationship, different life, but most importantly, different person. The grind had rebuilt him from the inside out. That's what's possible when you stop looking for the easy way and embrace the process. The process isn't just about reaching a destination. The process is about becoming the kind of person who can handle that destination. Because here's something most people don't think about. Getting to where you want to go is only half the challenge. Staying there, managing it well, being the person who can sustain that level of success, that requires a different you. And the grind is what creates that different you. Every hard day, every moment you wanted to quit and didn't, every time you chose the disciplined path over the easy path, you were upgrading your internal operating system. You were installing new software that would serve you for the rest of your life. The habits you build in the grind, the character you develop, the resilience you forge, those things stay with you. Nobody can take them away. Economic conditions can change, opportunities can come and go, but who you've become through the process is yours forever. So when it gets hard, and it will get hard, remember this: the difficulty is doing something for you. It's not happening to you, it's happening for you. It's revealing your weaknesses so you can strengthen them. It's showing you what you need to learn. It's building your capacity to handle more. The grind is uncomfortable because growth is uncomfortable. You can't expand into a bigger version of yourself while staying comfortable in your current version. I want you to think about something. 5 years from now, you're going to be somewhere. That's guaranteed. Time is going to pass whether you use it well or not. The only question is, who will you be when you get there? Will you be the same person, just older, still talking about what you're going to do someday? Or will you be someone different, someone stronger, someone who's done the work even when it wasn't pretty, someone who's built something real through consistency and commitment? The grind works. It has always worked. It will always work. Not because it's easy or fun or inspiring every day, but because consistent effort over time is a fundamental law of success. You can't cheat it, you can't skip it, you can't hack your way around it, but you can embrace it. You can decide right now that you're going to be the person who does the work regardless of how it looks, regardless of how it feels, regardless of how long it takes. That decision, that commitment, that's where your new life starts. Not someday when conditions are perfect. Right now, in the mess, in the middle of the grind, that's where champions are born.